Hello, it's Georgia down in Australia. Thank you for joining me. Now, this is going to be the journal component tutorial for my 2022 Holy Week Virtual Faith Art Retreat called A Lot Can Happen in a Week. But of course, this doesn't have to be an Easter themed project for you. You can use it for anything. You can, as I always say, make it your own. I've pulled out a journal that I made on a previous retreat just to give you my thoughts of why we are making this particular journal today. This is my ordinary time journal. I made it during an earlier retreat this year, and my thinking behind it at the time was I wanted a journal where I could just write notes, thoughts and things I heard, reflections, homilies, etc. that related to the daily readings during the time that we call ordinary time. And it was really just a bit of a desperation idea. I did not know how useful it would be. I knew it would be useful. I knew I wanted something in which I could jot down notes, but I wasn't really totally enthusiastic about how fantastic this thing was going to be. It was just an excuse to make a journal because I always make some sort of journal project in my retreats. So I came up with this ordinary time journal idea, and as it turned out, this has been the best thing. Now, I haven't been into this journal since the beginning of Lent, which was to the end of February, so it's been 40 something days that I haven't touched it because we have been in this season of Lent, which is not ordinary time. But during the time that I used this, so the first couple of months of the year, well, I've kept all sorts of little things in the pocket. Those questions, I have had questions that I popped in here that I have actually pulled out on occasion and asked my people and had conversations about. So that's been, really great to have something like that I carry around. But the biggest thing was I did not expect this. Every week I had so much that I was writing, bits and pieces that I was picking up here, there and everywhere. Really important notes and things that I did not want to forget, that I did not want to write these things in my Bible because then they sort of get lost because the Bible is so many pages. So all condensed in one place, all these really important things that I wanted to remember. And absolutely, the envelope that I put in the center, anyone who was part of the retreat or did this project, remember I had an envelope. I'm still not telling you what's in it, but I can tell you that there are lots and lots of pieces of paper that have been added in there. Lots of really important things. When they're in the envelope, they're yet to be dealt with. And there's a whole bunch of things in there. So that's been really useful. The only thing that hasn't been used much, strangely enough, is that things you say that I don't like booklet at the end. There is one thing that I have written about, which is not actually a thing he said that I don't like, but it's just a thing that I was struggling with. But strangely enough, I haven't used it, but hey, there's plenty of time. I'm sure I'll be in there because that's me, always something to argue. But point is, this was, during the time I was using it, really, really brilliant. Absolutely loved writing my little notes in it. Absolutely loved the fact that I had a place to put these little important moments that I wanted to remember, that I know I want to go back to at some time, that I wanted to use to connect things. And I was thinking, wow, I'm not going to get back to this until the beginning of June, because we are now in the season of Easter, and we will be in the season of Easter until Pentecost, which is, I believe, the 5th of June. Don't have my calendar in front of me, but that number's sort of ringing a bell. So very early June. Until then, I can't get back into this book. So I thought, today we are going to make another journal, and the purpose of my journal will be very similar to this. It will be a writing of notes, reflections, etc., things that I pick up along the way through the Easter season. Now, what I'm going to do today, our last journal was made using a cereal box that I upcycled, painted and covered and used as the cover. Today I'm going to use a paper bag. I'm going to make a paper bag journal. But the last time I made a paper bag journal, I actually covered the inside and outside of the covers with scrapbooking paper. And so that strengthened the paper bag and gave it a really nice cover. Today, I actually want to leave most of my cover as paper bag color and texture. I want that kind of rustic look. But if I leave it just like this as the cover, it's way too soft and thin, and it will not stand up to time. So what I'm going to do is cut a piece of card. This is just lightweight scrapbooking cardstock. I'm going to cut a piece that is as big as the inside of the bag that I can slip into the bag just to strengthen it. Now, because it's going inside the bag, the color really does not matter. And so I have just chosen an offcut that I had sitting around. And so if I pop that inside, and that makes the cover a lot stronger. So now I can fold it in half. There we go, and that is my journal cover. What I'm planning to do at this point, things might change, is to have a decorative spine, which I will probably make out of patterned paper. Maybe an Easter themed paper would be nice. And then I'm going to have some sort of closure here. Not sure yet what I will do. But for now, I want to work on getting the pages. As always, the kind of papers that you use and the number of pages is completely up to you and dependent, of course, on what you plan to use your journal for. What I have done is cut 3 sheets of tea-dyed paper, just slightly smaller than the cover of my journal, so that when I fold them in half and put them inside the journal, they will not be sticking out of the edges. So I've cut 3 of these sheets, which gives me 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 pages, and which is plenty. We have 7 weeks in the Easter season, and if I'm thinking 1 page per week, then that's plenty of space. But I wanted a little bit extra because within that season we have 2 really big Sundays. We have the Feast of the Ascension of the Lord, and we have the Feast of Pentecost right at the end. So I might want to have a couple of extra pages for that. So I have plenty of pages to do my 1 week per page kind of note taking. I also have cut a piece of tea-dyed music paper just to have a decorative element in there. And I have cut 2 pieces of white paper. I used a thicker paper than just copy paper. It's thinner than your scrapbooking cardstock, but it's thicker than copy paper, so it's got a little bit of body to it. The reason being that I want to possibly, of course my plans always change, but possibly stick photographs onto this. So it's going to be a combination of note-taking and photo album. The thought in my head is, you know, when you have non-fiction books, especially biographies that have mostly writing through them, but every now and then you have a page of old photos. So I'm sort of thinking along those lines. Having, let's see, 1, 2, that 1, if I did that. Deciding what I want. So if I did something like that, actually I want one right at the start. I know I want one at the start because I have some photographs of our church on Palm Sunday and I would like to put those in there. So maybe something like this. Even though Palm Sunday is not part of the Easter season, I do want to put it in there at the start. So, oh, this will work out well because then I can have cover, I can have photos, I can have the special thing I'm going to tell you about in a second, and then the writing can start. I can actually have this page as another title page, Eastertide something, I'm not quite sure yet, we'll see. Then I can start taking some notes, pop some photos in there along the way, notes, there's a little music thing, I might put something in the center, I'm not quite sure yet. Now what I also want to do is, and if you are in the Creative Lent Project group and have been taking part in the retreat, you will have noted that very early on, before the retreat started, I posted a little notice saying, if you have access to palms, this Palm Sunday, choose a palm that's small enough to fit into your journal, because I've got one of my crazy ideas. I have cut out 2 sheets of acetate. This is actually We Are Memory Keepers Fuse sheets. They are plastic sheets that are used with the We Are Memory Keepers fuse tool, which I own and which I have used once in all the years that I've had it. So it's one of those, it was one of those, you know, the toys that you have to have because it's new and exciting. And I did not have to have it because I used it once and it wasn't my thing. But I think we're going to use it today, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. This is my thought so far. If I fuse down the center, that will be my fold over line. Put it within the, or in the book somewhere, or in my case, right at the start. But before it goes in there, that front part here, put my palm in there and fuse the sides around it so that my palm is forever inside this plastic. Then it will go inside the book, and I'm not quite sure what will go in this side, so maybe I'll fuse it just two sides so that I can use that page to slip things into. And I might slip something into it. I might end up making it as a big shaker page at the end. I don't know. The end of Eastertide is many weeks away, so we'll see what happens then. But that's definitely my plan for the first part. So that's what I'm going to do first. I have clipped my two sheets together so that they are aligned and they don't move. And I'm sure I used to have one of the special mats that We Are Memory Keepers put out with the fuse tool so that you've got a backing so you don't burn your work surface. I can't find it anywhere, so I'm just using this really old Creative Memories cutting mat, which I never use because it's a stupid size. So if anything bad happens, I'm not really concerned. So I'm just centering it here, kind of, because my measurements were not exact. And I'm going to find my center spot, 3, 4, which is here. Now, the fuse tool does come with this little ruler, but it's, okay, I think I can use it. It's a little bit short for my purpose. You know what, I'm not even going to use it because you all know me. I eyeball things and I don't do anything straight. So I'm just going to use the line from the cutting mat as my, as my reference. And I'm just going to guide myself with that. I'm going to start from the bottom actually. And I have the, I don't know what you call this particular wheel. The tool comes with a few different attachments. This is like the rotary kind of jagged wheel. And I have had this heating up for a couple of minutes, so it's nice and hot. It is plugged in to electricity. So the tip of it gets really hot. Don't be like me and tap it against the back of your hand to see if it's hot, because it does heat up very quickly, and it's metal, so it gets really hot. So I am just going to run it up the center line. I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on it. I'm going nice and slowly. Not completely straight, but good enough for me. There is a little thing that supposedly holds your tool, but because it's so lightweight, I do have a bit of trouble with that. And oh, look at that. Oh, almost fused it onto the mat. I have ruined my mat. There's a scrunchy line along there. I know it's meant to be a healing mat, but it's not healing very well, so just be careful what you use as a backing when you do this. But it has stuck the pages together, which is great. So now this here will be my front pocket, so I'm going to, now I will use their tool, I think, just to see how it goes. I'm going to line it up first. And I'm just going to run this in. There's a little slot that you can run your tool along, so you get this perfectly straight line. And I'm just going to run it all the way along the bottom of my page there. Stay. There we go, so that's stuck, brilliant. Do the same to the top. And see, now I'm more confident, I'm going quicker. Okay, so there you go. I don't have to put quite as much pressure as I thought I did. Now, before I put my palm, let's just do this back pocket here. So just the bottom once again. I'm actually lining it up with the sealing line from the previous page. Not that it matters because they're going to be separated by other pages. And because I still don't know what I'm doing with this last page, I think I will just seal two sides and leave the top open. I'm going to use that ruler, and I know it's not as long as my page, but that's okay because I can move it. Just that top bit, line that up there. So I have a little pocket for my last page there. I'm not sure what I'll put in there. Now, my palm page. Let's see, what shall we do? If I pop my palm in here, it's a little bit big. I could cut it down to size, but I don't really want to. I like the size of it. So I'm very carefully sliding it in there so it's in the corner. I'm going to make this work. This will work. And this is where my clips would be handy. Need a bigger one. This is very fiddly, but it will be worth it, I'm sure. Hold it there with my clip. Push it in there so it has no choice. I just need an extra hand, unfortunately. I only have two. Here we go. Move this down. There we go, and let go of my clip. And there we go. I have my 2022 Blessed Palm from Palm Sunday in my little plastic pocket for my journal. I love it. Now, of course, not everyone has access to a fuse tool and these plastic bits that I'm using. So some alternatives for you. If you can get a hold of a plastic sheet that is used in laminators, you could use that quite easily because then you can put your palm leaf on there, fold it in half, and then you can actually seal the edges with just washi tape. Or you could use your sewing machine to stitch the edges. If you don't have a laminator and you can't access one of these sheets, another alternative is plastic packaging, especially if you are a craft person. For example, here is a stamp set that if I was desperate for a plastic sheet this size, this is actually a really good size, I could actually take the stamps out and use this plastic pocket that the stamp set came in and use that as my plastic pocket. So there are other ways that you can use plastic bits. So either find a plastic bag. You can even just purchase little plastic bags at party supply stores, stationery stores. So if you don't have something lying around your house, check those out. If you can't get to a shop or you just don't have access to anything like that, have a look at all your craft supplies and other things that come in plastic bags. You will be amazed at the number of plastic bags we have sitting around the place that can be repurposed. So there's a couple of different ideas. Or you could just simply stick your palm leaf directly onto one of your pages. You could stick it with a very strong glue. Experience has told me that E6000, yes, does stick plants to paper. That was my great discovery a couple of years ago. But using a very strong glue, you could stick your palm directly onto your pages. You could actually stick it onto your title page. That would be pretty awesome. And another idea, my last idea, then I'll stop. If you're using a paper bag like this and you're leaving it open, you could stick your palm inside the paper bag. Take it in and out whenever you like. So there's a few different ideas for everyone who does not have access to a fuse tool and those plastic sheets. Before I stick the pages into my journal cover, I want to add a decorative spine. I need to do this now because I had been thinking of using my sewing machine to sew the pages in, but I'm actually going to bind the pages with a needle and thread, because I want the string that I used to bind the pages into the cover to have a part sticking out that I can hang some little beads or something onto. So I will need the decorative spine to be on there so the needle and thread can come through the whole lot. If you are sewing your pages in using a sewing machine, you can sew them in now and then add the spine later, completely up to you. But because I do want the binding string to come hanging out, I'm going to add the spine first. So first thing I need to do is decide how wide I want it, and I'm sort of thinking almost an inch, but not quite. So I'm going to cut this paper. I have chosen this Easter collection from Colour Play called Easter Joy. It is quite old. Sorry, once again, I'm using old discontinued paper, but I like this design with the lilies on it, mainly because the blue will come up really nicely up against the brown paper bag. So I want almost 2 inches, but not quite. So I'm going to go with 1 3/4, I think. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit and use my scoreboard to score the middle line. That will just make it easier for me to get a nice clean fold. And then I'll glue that onto the spine of my journal. I did cut my spine just a little bit too long, but that's okay because it's a lot easier to cut it down to size than it is to fix it if you make it too short. And I'll just grab some of my clips to hold it down while it dries. Nice. With the spine nice and dry, I'm ready to stick my pages in. Now I had some clips along the spine of my pages just to hold them down and sort of crush them into shape, if that makes any sense, so that it's a little bit easier for me to stick them in because I don't all want to fall apart. Now I've decided that I'm going to keep all the pages as they are. I'm not adding anything else to this booklet. So that will go in like this. I'll use some clips just to hold them on to the cover. And then placing a foam mat on my work surface so that I don't cause too much damage, I'm going to poke a hole. I'll actually be kind of accurate here today. So how big's my journal? It's about 8 inches, so at 4 inches. Okay, so at about 4 inches, I'm going to poke a hole, so that is my center. I'm poking it all the way through, so it comes out on the outside of the spine. Now these are going to be my sewing guides. And then I'm going to poke another hole about, let me see, it's a bit fiddly with the clips, but about 1.5 inches from the top, I think. Poke that all the way through, so that's come out the other side on the spine, and then 1.5 inches from the bottom. Right, so they're my sewing guides. Now I'm grabbing a very large needle and I'm thinking of this one here, this white. I think white would be nice. So measuring double the length of my journal and then some extra. Cut that. Thread it through my needle. Now I am going to start from the outside and going in through that center hole to the inside of my journal. Pull it through, but make sure you leave a nice big piece hanging out. Now I'm going down to my bottom hole and sewing outwards through the spine to the outside. I'm now going to, let me see, I'm going all the way to the top here, in through that top hole. Might need to lose those clips here. I've lost my guide. Okay, and then back out through that center hole. I can take those out now. Now making sure that it's nice and secure and very taut. I can lose the needle. Have one of your ends going underneath one side of your string that's making up the spine and one on the other, and tie those in a knot. And I'm going to give mine, I'm just having a think now. Okay, I am going to, I'm looping them over as if I was doing a bow. I don't actually want a bow, but you'll see what I'm up to in a second. And I'm going to tie those two bows up in a double knot. Pull that one a little bit. Tie that in a double knot. And now I'm going to cut them. Now I'm not cutting it exactly in the center. I'm moving it a little bit so that once I've cut it, one side is longer than the other. Doing that on the other one as well. Now I've got quite a few bits hanging out and I can tie some things to the ends. So that's my journal so far. Great, I'm kind of liking it. All right, it's nice and simple. Now I just need some sort of closure. Okay, so quick little closure. I have not thought this through very well, so we'll see how it goes. I was going to do something different and I've changed my mind, so things are not where they should be, but we'll make it work. What I want to do is a bit of an eyelet closure. So I'm going to have an eyelet on the front cover, on the back cover, have a piece of string through each of them, and they will tie up in the center. Now, ideally to do this, I should have made the pages a little bit shorter so that there is more space in between the two covers here, but that's okay. Now, rather than just putting eyelet straight into the cover, I want to have a bit of a decorative element, so I have pulled out my circle punch. It's a 1.5 inch circle punch, and I am going to cut out two discs. With the same paper as my spine, and my plan is to have these on the covers with, let's grab a couple of eyelets, I think the dark ones, yeah. So circle on the cover with an eyelet, a bit of this string coming out and tying up at the center. Okay, so I'm on the back cover and I am measuring my halfway point about here. And I'll place my little disc over here, punch a hole through the disc and the cover. And actually what I should have done, which is really, I'm so distracted today, what I should have done was stuck the disc onto my cover before punching the hole. Just my brain is not functioning well today at all. I'm actually quite distracted. So stick the disc first, then punch your hole. Makes life so much easier. Okay, now I'm going to set my eyelet. Using my crocodile tool. Okay, so that's set. So that's my back cover. And here we go. I've done the same with the front cover, only I've done it only on one piece of the paper bag so that it's left an open pocket. I have a feeling that I'm going to have troubles with this string constantly hitting this side of the bag, and it's going to cause some damage, so I might have to reinforce it with something. Okay, I've just had an idea. I'm going to punch 2 more of those discs. Then grab my little string. I'm going to thread one end through the eyelet here. Bring it around the other side. Glue that little bit to the page first so it doesn't move around. And then I am going to stick one of these discs over the top. So it's hiding the end of my string and also hiding the back of the eyelet. And that's a cute little decorative element there. Yeah, I think I like that. So I've just got a clip holding that down. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Only I don't need a disc on this side because it's inside the bag. Oh, well, I kind of do, because otherwise the string will move around and all sorts of nonsense will happen. So I'm going to put one inside the bag anyway, just to keep things neat. So here we are. Sticking that inside my bag, if you can see. Grab one of these clips to hold it down. Now the other thing I want to do is just reinforce this little bit of the bag because it's so thin, and because this journal is going to get used quite a bit, I can see it getting damaged. Grabbing more of this paper. I'm just going to cut, half an inch, a little strip, half an inch wide. That I can fit inside here. Perfect. And stick along the edge there. Yay. There we go. And I know there are those 2 corners. I might actually cut those corners off. There we are. So now I have my little pocket here. That's reinforced, so when I tie up the string here, it won't cause so much damage to the paper bag. And it's not an issue that my pages are as wide as the cover. It looks quite fine. Cut these to size. I'm going to rub a little bit of glue onto the edges there, or onto the tip of the string. And that is not a long-term solution, but it will for a little while stop it fraying. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is just hang some little things on the ends of these. Okay, so I kind of did this off camera because it would have been really, really boring to watch, but I've pulled out a whole lot of my beads and I threaded some beads through the little end strings here. So there's all these little dangly bits with beads and fun things hanging off them. So that is now my finished journal. I might put a little title thing here, I'm not sure yet, or I might just leave it as is. I think what I will do though is I will paint the cover with some collage medium just to give it a bit of strength. Otherwise, I have my little string closure here that just opens up. Pocket here to put something special. My palm leaf. I will stick some photos in here, and then once we get into the season of Easter, I will use the journal 1 page per week pretty much. Some pictures will go in along the way, and I have somewhere to write some special notes and reflections and things as we travel through Eastertide. So I will at some point share some of the things that I put into this journal, and I will share those in my Facebook group God's Refrigerator and on my profile, sort of all over my social places, which are down below in the description. So if you would like to make one of these, that would be great, and then come along and show me. Visit one of my places or come and join my group God's Refrigerator. If you do want to join my group, please make sure that you answer the entry question, otherwise we can't let you in. So thank you very much again for joining me, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.